Hello everyone, so welcome back to More Books, back from Rome. I have a bit of a cold, so you might notice that in my voice, but should be fine. I have a visitor today.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan, also known as Saraphus. You may be able to find my channel on...
Yeah, well, I think we're affiliated on the,
Yes,
on
we
the
are.
channel list. So, as I've been doing a lot of vlogs recently about reading and the process of reading and how to train the reading muscle, that's sort of been impetus for Ryan getting Piranesi.
Definitely.
Now, we were going to do, Ryan was going to flip through his version, the paperback version, but unfortunately our dog ate his copy just before we
Yes.
started recording.
Quite
so,
apposite because obviously Piranesi in the book finds a lot of scrap pieces of paper that he has to find in order to solve the mystery of the book.
Exactly, yeah.
And as we look outside in the garden, there is a lot of paper strewn about. So it's quite appropriate and apposite, but
Indeed. So,
but a pain nonetheless because I'm gonna have to get another copy now.
indeed. Right, so I thought I would just sort of start off by talking about, or asking about rather, how you got into the book and how you found time and sort of the effort and the sort of how you created the sort of space to read, if I can call it that. So obviously you started a new job relatively recently, new situation, new book. You've obviously not read many books in general. I think the last book you read was Children of Hurin.
Yes, that was
2018, I think, or
something like
2017.
that. And before that, it was a Silmarillion. So I'm not an avid reader, but obviously I'm the brother of this avid reader here that does
Yeah.
a review channel. So it's hard not to be to know the love of books.
Sure.
So
And obviously, yeah, I mean, I think I recommended the last short story you read. I think it was something to do. Was it Lovecraft or The Outsider? Or was
I've
it
read
something else?
Dagon from Lovecraft
Dagon, yeah.
a few times. But yes. So you wanted me to...
So, yeah, so I basically just wanted. I was going to ask how you found the time to read, and just what got you first. Obviously, you had the book for a while, and then you sort of put it off maybe, but then you got into it, and you found it was this whole world that you could get into and enjoy.
Yes, definitely. So the impetus was definitely your review, or sorry, well, initially your review of
Oh,
Piranesi,
sure. Yes.
because
Which
well,
can be
for a start,
found on this channel.
definitely. I would recommend to go and check that out. It's a good review that gave a lot of insight into what Piranesi is like, and I thought, oh, that sounds very exciting. It's fantasy. It's to do with classical art.
Yeah.
It has a lot of themes that we like.
And I
so
guess
on.
as well, one of the other things is that it's not a standard narrative. It's sorry, it's more there's lists and it's very easy and enjoyable to get into. And
That's one of the main things that I took away from your initial review was that it seemed like I know books don't have to be like this, but it does seem like a fun book to read, like a nice thing to start off my reading journey.
Sure. Yeah. It's not obviously it's a lot of good weighty sort of symbolism and intertextuality and all that sort of
You've
stuff.
talked about Plato's allegory of the cave and stuff
Yeah,
like
indeed.
that. So it's a worthy book, but I also
It's
thought
also quite easy to read as well, so I thought it's a good starting point.
this is going to be easy, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So how did you find time to just? How did you start? How many pages did you read when you first started? Your first session, I suppose.
So I started reading on a holiday because I've talked to you about finding it difficult to read, especially after work. We have this thing in modernity where we want to, we find ourselves dragged away into the
Path
world
of
of
least
YouTube.
resistance, in a way.
Yeah. So when I was reading, it really did have to be on a holiday because after work you're tired, and I thought, oh, this is
Sure.
the perfect time just to sit back and watch some mindless YouTube
Or,
videos.
or you can read the Iliad whilst doing exams.
That's what you did,
Yeah.
as well as writing your own stories
Yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah.
But I started reading Piranesi on holiday. I thought that was the best time. I wanted to really dedicate some good time to it. I did still feel that draw to just go and do
to go
other
and watch
easier
videos on
things.
YouTube and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
I obviously, for myself personally, I still find it difficult to get into that.
I was going to ask you about that.
Oh yeah. So I still personally find it difficult to stay reading and to keep reading and to cultivate that sort of stillness that I talked about in the vlog. And as well, I'm obviously on this Hill Society Discord channel, and I know various people that, although they're obviously writers and readers as well as me, they also find it difficult to maintain reading.
So if you guys are going to be feeling that, I'm definitely going to be feeling that. I
Yeah.
did feel it, but I made sure to really try and do something I've never done before, which is read a lot more than I was comfortable with. So I started with the first 2 chapters, which for me is quite a lot. I think the first two chapters of Piranesi, it's about 85 pages,
Believe
which
so,
I
yeah.
thought was quite a feat for me. I was quite pleased with that, and then that gave me the confidence to read more the next day.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
So
And just in general, just how did you? Can I just get your first sort of reactions for the book and where you thought it was going to lead and if it met up to expectations and that sort of stuff?
So it did meet expectations. It was a very fun book. I know you talked about it has a lot of quite dark humour, quite offbeat humour, in a very strange, subtle way in this book, as well as
Oh yeah, I think Piranesi's naivety is one of the things that draws you in. He's a very likable
definitely.
character.
I always think about the part where he says the things the other has given me, and then it says this, and a cheese sandwich.
Exactly, yeah,
It
yeah.
did make me laugh quite a lot.
Exactly, yeah. It's one of those books that again, it just draws you in. It starts with a mystery. It's highly strange situation, highly strange world. It's world building, but it's very much it's sort of loose world building in a sense.
I found myself so interested by just what was going on in this beautiful, immeasurable house. I thought, why is this? Why are these strange things happening? What is the deal with how tall this building is? Why? And can I ask? I'm not actually sure. There was an albatross in the book. Obviously, that's what the
Yes.
name of the year is
I should
named
say
after.
I've not read this in months, but I'll see.
Well,
it.
every entry for Piranesi's diary
No, but
starts
yes,
with obviously
in the year that the albatross came
to
to
the Southwestern Halls or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that.
Yeah.
Did you get the sense that the albatross was much larger than than real albatrosses in real life? Because I can't be sure about that now. But was this sort of a mystical albatross that was sort
The
of as
albatross.
large as
I
a
remember
fancy creature?
there's a scene where the albatross comes
Through-
through the hall, and
Yeah.
I think there's some sort of Christ imagery in that as well. I think the albatross is supposed to be larger than
Yeah.
a genuine
So
albatross.
sorry, that was
Is
just an aside, but I did wonder because it came to mind there if the albatross was larger than it was a sort of a magical creature in that regard, which we don't see.
it's one of the things I might not have picked up on.
So you were asking me about the expectations that I had for the book.
Sure.
That is where I think one of my first criticisms of the book comes from, just as a personal feeling. I was expecting a lot of sort of fantastical elements in Piranesi, perhaps more than actually there ended up being. I thought there was going to be a lot of maybe the house was changing shape. There was going to be these strange rules.
Right.
A lot of different things that were very very interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's sort of a lot of dynamism in the sense of the flow of the sea, the clouds above. It seems very sort of
All the sea
elemental.
creatures,
Yeah, yeah. But in a different sense, there's not much that really happens. Once you after the first couple of chapters, I feel like you encounter all that is
Less
to be
and less
encountered.
magical
Yeah,
elements, and then
yeah.
that is my main critique. Not only because I don't know if you found this in the book, but you sort of just skimmed over every time that Susanna Clark mentioned the 23rd hall, the fourth, blah 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 blah,
Oh, right.
and just like all those things added to the fatigue that I found.
Obviously the repetition there. I don't think I think I actually forced myself to read. I have this habit of forcing myself to read every word.
I skim read it. I definitely I skim read, but I didn't always consciously say the 21st hall of the.
No, I don't
Southwestern.
think I ever really consciously said, "Oh, we're
This
in
is
this,
where
we're in this
Piranesi
hall,
is."
so
No, I
that's
didn't do that
important."
either.
It's more of a case of what's happening right now. It doesn't necessarily need to be
Yeah.
this hall. And
But I'm just saying that added to the fatigue that I found that was started by thinking, oh, maybe this isn't going to be as fantastical as I thought.
Right.
And I did get a bit fatigued by, oh, all that exists in this house are the birds in the water and the many different halls. I was thinking, oh, maybe I would have liked a little bit more in terms of, because this house, and the statues, of course, those are great, but I wanted more from a house that was like linked. It was the other side, this magical
more
domain.
colour, more sort of vibrancy.
Yes.
It doesn't. It almost seems quite. It's supposed to be magical, but there's something quite sterile and sort of Spartan about it, in terms of
Definitely.
the sort of the cut. I just imagine a sort of. I'm sure. Is there more colour than I remember? Because I think that for me it's just the grey sea, the white pillars.
Well, there's
statues.
corals and stuff
There's
like
corals,
that. And the sea is,
Oh, of course, right.
But
overall, though, there isn't as much fantasy elements as you'd imagine.
so what I'm just trying to say in a rambly way is that I would have liked if there was more fantastical elements to Piranesi. Not that it wasn't great, but I think if there were just a little bit more than just the rising of the tides and the statues and stuff. Because, like I say, it's this other world that's connected to all sorts of different things, and I just wish maybe it did a little bit more.
Sure. Now, to bring it back to sort of general reading, every time you finished a chapter or a session, did it stay with you, or did it? 'Cause I admittedly, sometimes I have a habit of, if I finish a chapter, I can just almost instantly just forget about the feeling of it. Sometimes I try and sit and
I think
remain with it, but
right, I understand that. I think it did stay with me. I do feel like imagery in books stays with me for quite a long time.
right.
I think more so because this was the first book that I read in a long time. I was making some notes that I sent to you on Discord after, and saying, "Am I on the right tracks here?"
Right.
Just trying to see if I was
It's always
along
best to
the.
take notes, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely shows a sort of conscientious sort of.
Am I on the right track here
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
plot? And this other doesn't seem very. Maybe there's something going
Yeah, you
strange
get,
going
early on,
here.
you get hints of the other
Yeah.
being not
So
as
I
it
think-
seems. And also, when you woke up the next day, and also I just wondered how.
I was excited to read it,
Yeah,
and that's
and
what
also,
you want.
when you sit back down to read, did you have to do a little check up on where you were before?
I always go back to the last 1 or 2 pages and read from there just to
Right.
get a little bit of a.
I used to
recap.
have a habit. I don't know if you know this. I used to have a habit of, I don't do it so much nowadays because it makes it seem like a chore. But I used to, after every reading session, I'd sort of do quite extensive bullet points, so it would make it easier for me.
Because you
the
really
next
want it
day.
to go in, don't you?
Yeah, but nowadays I just sort of flick through the pages and
Yeah.
vaguely because it's just too much.
I understand what the need to do stuff like that, but obviously it can become a bit of a chore.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I definitely don't want to do what I did with the Silmarillion, which was write pages and pages and pages.
Oh,
But that's
yeah.
obviously a different matter because you sort of need to do that. For the
That reminds me.
Silmarillion.
Before I actually got into reading, this is probably more than a decade ago. I remember reading The Fellowship of the Ring, 2011 or something like that. Before I actually got into reading, and I remember actually writing whole paragraphs about everything the characters did, and
Wow.
it's so unbelievably sort of needless. But
Well, needless in a sense, but
sense,
probably has
it
some.
does. It helps drill this sort of information in. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's
But I was excited to read it. I did read the last 2 pages again just to get back into it.
sure.
I still felt that need to go away to YouTube because it's just that's how the habits formed in most modern people, I think.
Yeah.
But I did force myself to read, I think, another couple of chapters. So I think I read it in about a week, which to me is
That's pretty good.
fairly
Yeah.
quick.
But no, actually, people say that you can read one book a week and you'll have read 52 books in a year. So that's
Yeah.
just a general thing.
I
so
mean,
I'm not
a
think-
week was quick for me.
So I just wondered overall, did the book exceed your expectations, and what was your favourite part of the book?
I'd definitely say it exceeded. Well, I don't know if it exceeded my it met my expectations.
Right.
It was a good book. I like to rate things now. This would be incredibly vague and take this with a pinch of salt, but I'd maybe give the book a 7.5 out of 10.
It feels like that to me. It's I have a habit at the time of really liking a book, and so maybe amplifying or exaggerating the rating. Then obviously, as time passes, it sort of
You need to let things settle before
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
really understand how you think about it.
And your favourite part of the book?
My favourite
Your
part of the
line?
book. I'm not so much sure about favourite part, but I do have a favourite line. Now, you'd think if it was my favourite line, I could remember it without having to.
Oh, I
go
know
back.
tons of favourite lines, but I couldn't remember.
But it is the part when Piranesi is back in the real world, and he finds he sees a rather dishevelled old man walking
Probably not.
in I think it's Manchester that they're in, and I'll just read this excerpt here. People were walking up and down on the path. An old man passed me. He looked sad and tired. He had broken veins on his cheeks and a bristly white beard. As he screwed up his eyes against the falling snow, I realised I knew him. He is depicted on the northern wall of the 48th Western Hall. He is shown as a king with a little model of a walled city in one hand, while the other hand he raises in blessing. I wanted to seize hold of him and say, "In another world you were a king, noble and good, I have seen it." But I hesitated a moment, too long, and he disappeared into the crowd. I think that really shows Piranesi's naive but also noble and good nature.
Yeah, exactly.
It really was one of my favourite lines.
That's one of those ones that's is liable to give you sort of goosebumps. I remember every time I think about it, it gives me goosebumps as well. It's actually the sort of inspiration for one of my not novellas actually.
Oh, right.
Okay, yeah.
Now, you just reminded me of something that I wanted to ask you about. Did this book make you tear up at all? Did it make you...
It made me tear up actually at that point, I think. There's probably parts of it, it's obviously quite a long time ago that I read it now, but I think there's definitely times where I felt emotional. I felt very involved and engaged with Piranesi's sort of journey and himself as a character, but I think at that point at the end, and he talks about the stillness of the house and the beauty and the kindness of the house rather, and this idea, I think in my very first review actually I talked about other worlds and fantasy in general, and that really connected with me, I think.
I'd imagine it makes you tear up, especially for this sort of reverence of the house, and therefore we can compare that to a reverence of nature.
Sure.
It says, be thankful for what the house is giving you.
Exactly, yeah.
That is one of the themes that I really liked in the book. I teared up at multiple points, but I also had this deep sadness for especially the last chapter, because Piranesi is just so forgiving when, spoiler here, when Ketterly, the other, is getting bashed against the walls in the flood. Piranesi is still saying, grab onto the boat, because he's just he's a very noble and good character like that. He's all about I'd imagine he's all about forgiveness.
Indeed. I think that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed about the book, and it's sort of stayed with me, is this idea of, since obviously he's had this other life, he's had this normal life as Matthew, but as Piranesi, he's sort of he's always been exposed to this beautiful imagery, and that's always it's sort of clear and pure in that way.
I think
the house has made him kind.
The house resets him. The house makes him kind. And I was going to say actually, I have a note here written down on my phone. So I've got a note or two here that I've written down in preparation for this video. Did you notice how you mentioned in your review how many of the architectural elements are capitalised, like vestibule is capitalised when it probably should be. But if you turn to page 240, I think you'll see something there. It should be the same in your version.
Should be the same. 240.
240.
I'll be near the end, of course. Right.
So I just wanted to point out that I have I have placed it in one of the lower halls, access from the 8th vestibule. I just thought it was very interesting. It struck me that once Piranesi has left the house and knows of the other world, or as we call it, the real world, he no longer seems to capitalise things.
It's the same here as well.
The 3rd northwestern hall isn't capitalised anymore. That could suggest that he doesn't care about the house as much, or he's realising that
he's gone outside of...
It's a good way to symbolise that is not the the
be-all and end-all.
Yeah, definitely.
He's gone outside of Plato's cave, essentially.
Yes.
He's found another way of looking at things.
Talking about Plato's cave and Plato's allegory of the cave, I just wondered what you thought about this. I'm just going to read it verbatim from my phone. We talked about the perfect representation of an idea. Now, obviously, those are the statues in the house. I'm just wondering, if we wanted to go off on a little philosophical tangent, would you rather see the statue or a real mountain? Would you rather see the Platonic form, or do you think that the decay, because Piranesi talks about getting annoyed that that it's said that his versions of things, the Platonic form, isn't as beautiful, because that's not a real mountain, that's just a Platonic representation in the statue.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, I do feel sorry for Piranesi, because he thinks, but these statues are the real thing, but these statues are all that matters. This is a Platonic idea of a mountain, but he doesn't. I feel very, very sorry for him, because he doesn't know what a real mountain looks like. Perhaps the decay of a mountain makes it more beautiful.
It's almost like that thing of, Robert Nozick's, you go in the chamber and you can live a perfect life without knowing.
Yeah, would you rather have that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar.
It's one of those, I feel like that's something, it's very balanced, isn't it? It's like a 50-50 situation, because the beauty of a mountain can come from its decay and erosion, and what a true mountain is the earthly mountain. But then this
You say it's 50-50, but I was straight away struck by the fact that I felt sorry for Piranesi because he didn't get to see the real mountain itself.
Right.
And that's one of the other things that made me feel so sorry for Piranesi.
Although, see, I'm just trying to think of maybe from a sort of not devil's advocate, but from the other side of the ideal mountain sort of represents the highest peak, and it could represent like
Right, but of
symbolism
course
for
the downside
yeah.
of that is that it isn't a real
It's not,
mountain.
it's not the true mountain. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just thought that was an interesting topic to
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah.
bring up.
Obviously a lot of good stuff here. It's very symbolical and philosophical and allegorical as well. But again, just to bring it back to the whole getting into reading and training the reading muscle. What I like about this book is that it's big ideas sort of packaged in a way that's pretty easy to read. I mean, obviously, from the very start of the book, it can maybe seem a little bit obtuse in the fact that, or dense in the fact that it's dealing with a lot of architectural elements. It's not human in a sense. It's the very first page is. I believe he's talking about. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so it says, when the moon rose in the third northern hall, I went to the ninth vestibule to witness the joining of three tides. This is something that happens only once every 8 years. The ninth vestibule is remarkable for the three great staircases it contains. Its walls are lined with marble statues, hundreds upon hundreds of them, tier upon tier, rising into the distant heights. It's not the most personal and immediately gripping intro, in a sense. It's weird and strange and fantastical, and that, in a sense, can help get into the book and the world and make you wonder what's going on. But it's not the easiest book to read, in that sense. But overall, the way it's written, the bullet points and the cheese sandwich humour, it's just it's easy, it's accessible to read. It's a very popular book, but it's also got a lot of philosophical ideas in it as well.
Yeah. So what you're saying in a sense is that it's an easy book to an easy book to read, but it has a lot packed within.
Yeah, it's a lot packed into it. Yeah. So I reckon we could do a video like this for any other book, because obviously I've already done a review of this book, but I wanted to talk about your experience with reading and how you got into it and just what you felt about reading for the first time in a while.
I would definitely say that Piranesi is quite a meaningful book to me now. That has probably started me off on this new journey of reading.
Yeah.
Thanks to your review and your how to get into reading video.
So here's the thing. You might have thought that if I recommended you a couple of short stories, as I actually have, I made an image of some great short stories, you might have thought that would have been too difficult, but you've read a 300-page book now, so that just reading a couple of pages.
I definitely get that sense now that I didn't have before, which was this is going to be quite a joy to read.
Yeah, and easier than it might seem at first.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
like now that I've read Piranesi,
you can read
a short story is nothing.
Yeah.
And it's getting into reading, which this has definitely helped me do.
Exactly, and I have actually, for your birthday, tomorrow...
I know this already, by the way, so it's not...
Yes, I should say. I've ordered King of Evelyn's Daughter, which is interesting because it's also, I've just realised, it's the first review I did for this channel.
Was it really?
Yeah, and it's also, I've been doing reviews for about a year now, so it's kind of neat in that way.
That's good. Definitely King of Elfland's Daughter will be the next book that I read, and perhaps we could do another rambly video like this
Indeed.
next time.
Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed that. I'll probably just be getting back to the regular reviews, might do a vlog as well. I'm actually thinking of going back to my favourite books just as a sort of 1 year special, maybe Gormenghast and just King of Elfland's Daughter, other books like that as well, just to go through the quotes and just try and remember just why I enjoy them.
Good.
Yeah,
well, thank you for having me on your channel. I just want to say that reading is good and you should do more of it. I'm definitely going to be doing more of it after watching your videos, and it's highly worth it.
Indeed. Okay, so that was a sort of joint video of Piranesi and sort of Ryan's experience in reading.
That wasn't my experience of reading. There's a lot better than that.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks everyone.
Thanks
for watching. Bye bye.